Some girls in Thailand take your money, some take your time. But the dangerous ones, they take your hope. She didn't rush, didn't sell me a dream. She let me build it myself. One morning coffee, one soft kiss at a time. Her name was Fawn, and this is the story of how I almost subscribed to love. For 35,000 baht a month. Her name was Fawn. She worked in a bar near Soi Buakau. Loud music, cheap lights, that kind of place where you go to forget your name for a while. I wasn't looking for anything. Just a drink, just a night. But then she sat beside me, touched my arm, and asked the one thing that always ruins everything. "You alone tonight?" We talked, or tried to. Her English was broken, my Thai non-existent. But somehow we understood each other. Or maybe I just wanted to. She laughed at my jokes, held my hand like it meant something. When I left that night, she hugged me like we'd known each other longer than an hour. I came back the next day, and the day after that. She stopped working whenever I came in, just sat beside me, her legs curled under her, head tilted, voice low. I stopped noticing the noise of the bar. Her laugh cut through it all. She'd peel peanuts for me like we were at home. I bought her a beer once, just once. After that, she said, "I just want you. No need drink." It did something to me, something dangerous. We started meeting during the day. Quiet coffees, street food, walks near the beach when the tourists were still sleeping. She liked mango with sticky rice, ate slow, smiled with her whole face. When she held my hand, it wasn't for show. No other guys around, no stage, just us. I started telling myself things, dangerous things, like, maybe she really means it.
One Sunday we took a motorbike ride out past the edge of the city, somewhere green, quiet, with chickens and kids chasing dogs. She took off her shoes and ran through a puddle. I'd never seen her laugh like that. She looked back at me and shouted, "You make me happy." I smiled like a man already gone, because I was. At night, she'd fall asleep beside me fully dressed, like she just wanted closeness. Her makeup off, phone face down. She never asked for anything, just curled up like a cat and sighed into my chest. We stayed in cheap rooms with thin walls and shared fans, and yet it felt more real than any five-star hotel I'd ever booked. I started thinking crazy thoughts, house, visa, future. She said she wanted to quit the bar, said she hated drunk men, the lies, the pretending. That with me, she finally felt calm. I told her, then don't go back. She looked at me, soft and serious. "Maybe, if I stop, you help me little, okay?" I nodded without thinking. Her fingers found mine and she whispered, "You make me feel safe." In that moment, I believed her. God help me, I believed everything. She stopped going to the bar altogether, said the boss was angry, but she didn't care. "I want normal life," she told me. We started spending every day together, lazy mornings with iced coffee, afternoons at the mall, walking slow. She'd cling to my arm like she was proud, like I belonged to her, like she chose me. And maybe she did, for all the right reasons, or all the wrong ones. She started cooking at my place. Simple meals, rice, eggs, soup, with something green I couldn't name. She'd hum old Thai songs while she stirred the pot. When I told her it was delicious, she'd smile like a child. I felt needed, wanted, like a man again. I hadn't felt that in years. Not back home. Not since everything started feeling like nothing.
She never asked for anything. No iPhones, no gold, no drama. That's what made her different, or so I thought. I started paying for small things without thinking. Rent, food, her mom's medicine. She said, "I pay you back someday." I laughed. "You already are." And I meant it. That's how deep I was. That's how blind I'd become. We went to Hua Hin for a few days. Just the two of us. Beach, beer, her head on my shoulder as we watched the sun drown in the sea. She said she'd never been on holiday before. Said she felt like a princess. I kissed her forehead and said, "You are." I believed it. I believed everything she let me believe. One night, lying in bed, she whispered, "Maybe I never go back to bar." I turned toward her. "I told you, you don't have to." She smiled in the dark. "But life is not free." I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. She brought it up gently, like she was afraid it might scare me. "If I stop working," she said, "I cannot make money, cannot help family." I nodded slowly. "We'll figure it out." She looked at me for a long time, like she was weighing something, then smiled. "I know you are a good man." That night, she held me tighter than usual. I thought it was love. Maybe part of it was. The next week, I noticed little changes. She started talking about prices, rent, bills, food. "Expensive now," she'd say with a sigh. "Electric so high." I offered to help. It felt natural. That's what you do when you care for someone. But the way she watched my reaction, it didn't feel natural. It felt rehearsed. I caught myself checking my bank balance more often, not because I was worried, just aware. I hadn't budgeted for this kind of relationship. It was starting to feel like a life I was sponsoring, but every time I tried to pull back, she'd look at me like I was her last hope. And I couldn't handle that. I'd spent too long feeling invisible. She made me feel seen. One night, over dinner, she said it, like it was no big deal. Some girl, she stopped work too. Her boyfriend helped. Every month 35,000 baht? Not too much, right? She said it casually, picking noodles from her plate. I stared at her. "Is that what you want?" I asked. She shrugged. "If you love me, you help me." She smiled sweetly. I didn't answer her right away. I changed the subject, but the air between us was different now, thicker, like the price had finally been said out loud. And everything that felt warm now came with a number, 35,000. I couldn't stop hearing it. Couldn't stop picturing her smile, the one that used to feel like home, now looking more like a mask. And that smile made me feel sick. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan. 35,000 baht. Every month. For what? For love? For her freedom? I kept turning it over in my head. Was this normal? Was this what couples did here? I didn't know anymore. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe I was being selfish. But still, something about it didn't feel right. The next morning, I asked her, gently, "Why not find a normal job? You're smart. You could work in a shop, a cafe, something simple." She didn't get angry, didn't even blink, just smiled like I was a child. "Thai job pay little," she said. "You don't understand. Farang life easy, Thai life hard." Then she kissed my forehead and walked away. But her words stayed with me. I wasn't rich. I wasn't some retiree with a pension and a villa. I was just a guy renting a room in Pattaya, trying to feel something again. Was I being played? Or was she really trapped in a system where men like me were the only escape? And if so, was I helping her or buying her? I started watching her more closely, not in anger, in silence. She never talked about dreams anymore. No cafe, no school, just bills, just what she needed. And I realized I wasn't her boyfriend. I was the upgrade from her last customer, a subscription model in a different shirt. I stopped calling her first, just to see. Some days, no message came at all. Other days, just a sticker, a heart, a kiss emoji, no questions. No, "How are you?" Just placeholders. I used to wait for her voice notes like a kid waits for Christmas. Now I listen to old ones, trying to remember what they felt like the first time. One night, I told her I might be going back home soon, just to see her reaction. She blinked twice, like buffering, then smiled. "Okay, baby." I wait. But it didn't sound like waiting. It sounded like calculating. She didn't ask why, didn't ask when, just smiled, leaned in, and kissed me longer than usual, like she needed me to forget something. I started asking questions, careful ones, about her past, about her family, about what she wanted. really wanted. The answers felt vague, rehearsed. When I pressed, she changed the subject. "You think too much," she'd say, giggling. But that's the thing about doubt. It doesn't need proof. It just needs silence. I checked her phone once when she was in the shower. I hated myself for it, but I did it. Just a quick glance. Different language, different names, but the patterns were there. One name with a heart, another with a transfer confirmation. I didn't scroll further. I didn't need to. I put the phone back and said nothing, just smiled when she came out. That night, I couldn't sleep. She was curled up beside me, peaceful, like nothing was wrong. And maybe for her, nothing was. But for me, it was the end of something I didn't know how to name. Not love, not betrayal, just the slow realization that I was never really with her. I was just renting the idea of being wanted. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask who John was or why 3 different transfers showed up that week. I didn't throw the phone or raise my voice. I just looked at her, looked really hard, and she knew. The way her smile froze for half a second, that was the confession. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask who John was or why 3 different transfers showed up that week. I didn't throw the phone or raise my voice. I just looked at her, looked really hard, and she knew. The way her smile froze for half a second, that was the confession. I packed my bag while she was out, left the key on the desk under the ashtray she always used. I sat for a while before leaving. Took one last look at the room. It smelled like her perfume and fish sauce, love and poverty, hope and a lie. Outside, Pattaya was still moving. Motorbikes, sunburnt tourists, promises in every alley. Nothing had changed, except me. I walked down Soi Buakau like a ghost, invisible to the girls who once smiled at me. I didn't want another drink. I didn't want another start. I just wanted out. I took a room by the pier, something small, cheap. Just for a few nights, I told myself. Just to breathe. I started writing everything down. Not for revenge, not for closure, just to make sense of it. Of how easily we lie to ourselves when we want to believe in something warm. I still get messages from her sometimes. A photo, a voice note. "Miss you, baby?" I don't reply. Not because I hate her, because I might still say something stupid. Because part of me still wants it to be real. That part of me doesn't get to talk anymore. People ask what happened. I just say it didn't work out. They nod. They don't know the details. They don't know I was 1 monthly payment away from calling it love. 1 smile away from forgetting it was a transaction. You see, in Thailand, the smile comes first, then the story, then the price. Sometimes it's dinner. Sometimes it's rent. Sometimes it's 35,000 baht a month just to keep pretending you matter. She never said, "I don't love you." She didn't need to. Love doesn't come with a rate sheet. And if it does, it's not love. It's a subscription. And I finally canceled mine. I stayed a few more days, ate alone, watched the city move, thought about all the men like me, thought about the ones still smiling, still believing, and the ones who haven't gotten the bill yet. I left Thailand quietly. No goodbye post, no airport selfie, just me, a passport, and a lesson. You can fall in love anywhere, but here, it'll cost you. And sometimes, the bill comes with a kiss. I don't hate her. I don't blame her. I blame the moment I let fantasy outweigh instinct. The second I told myself, she's different. The moment I wanted to be saved from loneliness more than I wanted the truth. In Thailand, the most dangerous thing you can buy is the feeling that someone really cares. If this story made you think or feel something you weren't ready for, leave a like, drop a comment, and hit that subscribe button. More real stories are coming. And trust me, you'll want to be here when they do.